Alright guys, and welcome back to the Saints View for another episode of the TSV podcast. A lot has happened since the last time we did one of these. We're going to try and keep it a bit more frequent going into the brand new season, but I've got Josh with me to discuss all the recent transfer news. We've had 2 new players in, we've had 1 player leave, plenty of transfer links, and pre-season has started. But to start off with, mate, how are you doing, Josh?
I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, it's been a busy summer, but I'm doing all right. It's positive news for. It's good to see that we're doing good business at the start of the summer, and we're not leaving it late like we usually do. So it looks good.
Well, let's start off with the transfers, the players that have come in. Carl Walker-Peters joined the other day from Tottenham for £12 million. Had an excellent loan spell. You know, even though he played, what was it, 7 or 8 games in the end, he didn't actually play that much. But in those few games, how impressed were you with him? And what was the point at which you thought, God, we've got to sign this guy on a permanent deal?
Walker Peters, he's been probably one of our best players since coming out of since the game Premier restarted. I think he's so good defensively and he's so good attacking wise. Overlaps, arm strong, and defensively he's just been solid. I don't really have any thing bad to say about him. I think it's just still stealing getting for 12 million, was it, from Spurs? I think it was. And yeah, I think he can develop even more under Ralph, and I'm really excited to see how he does next year.
Now, £12 million for a 23-year-old English right back. Do you think that was a good deal, or do you think we could have gotten away with a little bit less?
I think with how the market is right now, I think 12 million definitely is a steal. We've seen how good he is, and he's, as you said, he's only 23 years old, and he's going to be our first choice right back. So I have no complaints about 12 million, to be honest. And with Hojbjerg going the other way for 18, so I think that's a good deal.
And we'll talk about Hojbjerg in a little bit. But just to wrap up on the Walker Peters deal, you know, we saw Bertrand, however many years ago now it is, join initially on loan after not getting the game time he wanted at a bigger club. Do you think we could see Walker Peters follow the same mould? Because Bertrand's been here for a long, long time. No one's really pushed him for that first choice left back spot. Do you think we'll have that with Walker Peters at right back?
I would hope so. I think so. I think he'll keep on developing under Ralph, improving his game, and we've seen what he can do already. So yeah, if he does follow what Bertrand's done so far, I think he could be here for the next 4 or 5 years. I can see that happening.
Okay, and then let's talk about Pierre because you just mentioned him. 4 years at the club, captain last season and a bit for the season before. How do you sum up his Saints career? Because it's obviously ended sourly, but I think a lot of fans have underestimated how good he actually was at times, especially that first season where Ralph came in.
It's been a bit of a weird one because when he first joined, he looked all right, and then under Hughes or Pellegrino, he went to under 23s for some time. He wasn't really getting any game time in the first team. But then last year when Ralph came in, it completely changed how he played. He was definitely one of our player of the season candidates. I think Nathan Redmond won it, but I actually voted Hojbjerg. I think he was brilliant. And yeah, I mean, captaining Southampton at that age is just it's special. He's a good player, but this season it's been slightly different. It's been, I would say, he's been inconsistent. It's not really showed what he showed last year, and it's kind of clear that he didn't really want to stay. Looking at his recent performances, and he was playing for a move more than anything, to be honest.
Yeah, because of that, are you relieved to see the deal done?
I think so. He had a year left on his contract, so he was always going to leave. It was either leave now for a bit of money or just see out his contract, and he'll leave on a free next year. So I think it was definitely a good deal selling him on for 18 million. I think it was.
Yeah, the fee's been a bit of a weird one. Loads of different reports 15 million, 20, 25. But do you agree with some of the fans who have been saying on social media that he's not as good as Spurs are saying, and he's not going to be a big player there? He's going to be a bit of a flop. Do you think that's fair?
Look, he's shown promises and sparks of what he can do, and he's still young. And I think Mourinho is going to play him in a more defensive position. That he was more box to box for us. He was a defensive midfielder, but he did come forward quite a lot. I think for Tottenham, he's going to play Hojbjerg in a more defensive role, and we all know Hojbjerg's defensive capabilities. I think there's a stat that said he intercepted the ball the most amount of times in the whole of Premier League. So to be honest, I think he will develop well under Mourinho, and I think he will do well. I'm not sure whether he's going to start, but I think he will do well. Yeah,
To be fair, I think he will because I think he unlocks the potential of other Spurs midfielders. Obviously, they want to get Lo Celso playing and Ndombele. So I think if he's in that sort of deep role, they can play Ndombele and Lo Celso more sort of offensive positions. But let's forget about Hojbjerg. He's gone. You know, I wish him all the best. But the other player that we've got in, Mohamed Salisu, we were waiting a very, very long time for this one to be announced because of Spanish lockdown rules and how he had to quarantine for 14 days. But we were linked with him in January. A move didn't happen, and I think that was a good thing. He was allowed to have another 5-6 months to develop. But at £10.9 million, the likes of Real Madrid, Manchester United, Arsenal linked with him. Do you think we've picked up a very, very good deal here?
definitely. I think he looks promising, and from what I've heard, I've personally never seen him play, but from what I've heard, he seems very, very promising, and he's sort of like a no-nonsense defender. And I think that's what we need because we're so, mistake prone at the back. We've made so many mistakes this year, and I think Salisu can solidify the back four, and he can develop under Ralph as well, and it does look like a really good signing. Yeah,
I think we conceded about 60 goals in the league come the end of the season, so a centre back priority, and so we've got him in. But we've had this debate off camera on DM and that. We've also discussed it on camera, but the Stevens and Bednarek partnership works so well in that second half of the season. Are you thinking that Salisu is going to come in straight away, or do you think it's going to take time for him to be integrated into the side?
difficult one. I think obviously Stevens and Bednarek second half of the season were terrific together, and debate arguably Stevens was actually better than Bednarek for the majority of the season. Obviously, Ralph will have a pre-season with Ralph, and we'll see him in training. But I don't know. I think the point I mentioned before was that Salisu is a no-nonsense defender, and that's kind of similar to Bednarek. And I don't know whether they will both work together because obviously Stevens is a ball-playing centre back, and we've seen that on numerous occasions last year. And I think partnering Stevens with a no-nonsense defender would work. But at the same time, in the long run, you'd probably play Bednarek because he's a bit younger, probably has a bit more potential. So it's a difficult one. I think Ralph will probably put Salisu on the bench and see how it goes at the beginning of the season. I don't know if you would agree with me.
I do agree with you. To be fair, I think 21, 4 year contract. So I think it's a decent deal. But I'm sure he'll be using this as a stepping stone. So whether he needs to be put in the team straight away is debatable. But I think it'd be harsh on Bednarek and Stevens. But look, he's signed. He's in the squad. We've got an extra defender, which is good business in my opinion. But then that leaves the question of players like Yannick Vestergaard, Deadwood players. You know, we need to start shifting them on. We had said this last summer, and it never really happened. How important is it now that we get rid of some of these players? And would you be selling, for example, Vestergaard? I know we've got another defender in, but would you like to have that other option at the back?
Yeah, we do need to be selling the Deadwood because we've got so many loans out right now. We really need to get them off a wage bill. And Vestergaard, I presume he's on quite high wages, seeming he joined for quite a high fee. And yeah, I mean, Vestergaard, he's not. I mean, I know loads of Saints fans don't rate him. I don't rate him either. I think he's a liability at the back. And if we can sell him on for honestly 10 million plus to whoever wants him, I'd definitely take that because I think he's had only a handful of good games, and then the rest have just been woeful. So I wouldn't be sad to see Vestergaard go, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Well, reported today was that Carrillo and Lamina have both been told not to report for pre-season training. What does that tell you?
Obviously, they're not in uh, Ralph's plans for next season, and I can totally understand that. I think Pellegrino's actually been linked to Carrillo, which is interesting. I think, is he managing an Argent?
Yeah, I think it's out in Argentina now.
Everywhere he seems to go, he seems to try and buy Carrillo. But I mean, I don't know. Carrillo will probably go for about 6 million plus, which is I mean, that's awful business from us, isn't it? We bought him for 20 million, 19 million off Monaco, and then to sell him on for only 6 million or so. It's just woeful. But yeah, Carrillo definitely needs to go this summer. And Lamina, I think most people would say that he should go, and he's been linked to teams like Besiktas and that. I don't know how true that is, but it doesn't look like he's going to be playing for us next year. He obviously went. It's been a bit of a weird one with Lamina because he's been inconsistent, but when he performs and is by far the best player on the pitch. So, but it's just his attitude. No one can doubt his abilities on the ball, but it's just his attitude. It doesn't look like Ralph wants him anymore. So it's what it is.
Yeah, well, Hojbjerg has now left, which kind of leaves a hole in the middle of the park. We've got Oriol Romeu, who could play there. He played very well, to be fair, during the restart. Harrison Reed's come back from his loan from Fulham. But Weston McKennie is the main man who's been linked with a move from Schalke. We've spoken about him in a video, and I said how he'd be perfect for Saints. It was reported this week that, first of all, we are in talks, and now that potentially a 22 million euro bid has been submitted by us. Of course, we've spoken about him. You said you didn't know much about him, but do you think he's the man, or do you think we should be looking to promote from within, give Romeu a first choice a spot, or even give Reed that opportunity after a great season at Fulham?
I think, well, so obviously Ward Prowse's spot is definitely solidified in the midfield, but it's just who's partnering him. Oriol Romeu, he's been terrific. One of our best players actually since coming since the restart, and but I just don't think he is good enough to start, and especially if we're pushing for top 10 Europe next year, who knows? I just don't think Oriol Romeu is quite good enough. Great bench player, great player to bring on if we're winning or just in cup games or so. But I think we do need that top quality to partner Ward Prowse, and I think McKennie does bring that. I've heard a lot of promising things said about him. He's still young, and he was one of the best players at Schalke last year. So, I think it would be a really good signing. But with Reed, I don't know. It does look like Fulham are going to buy him. I think he's got an 8 million option buy, I think. So I think he will go to Fulham. But Ralph has actually said that he'll have a look at Reed and see how he does in training. And I don't know whether he'll have a pre-season or not. But McKennie does look very, very, promising, and he can develop under Ralph.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think Reed deserves an opportunity, but if Fulham want him and he wants to go to Fulham, I don't think we should be standing in his way because I just can't see how he's going to become a first choice midfielder for us. But moving away from transfers, we had a few contract links and also a contract announcement this week, a massive contract announcement. James Ward-Prowse has signed a 5-year extension, extending his stay at the club until 2025. He's 25 now, 26 in November, approaching his peak. Josh, mate, how big a deal was this to get over the line?
I think that's huge. I think he's our captain right now, and I can see him being the captain for next. Well, until he leaves, I think. I think his testimonial is in how long, Dan? I think in a few years.
Soon. It will be soon. It'll be like in 2 years, maybe.
It does look like he's gonna be having that, which is great news. And yeah, he's a big part of Ralph's plans. Ralph loves him, and for good reason too. He works very, very hard and is technically quite good. So I think it's very good news that he signed a new 5-year deal.
Well, you mentioned Ralph there, but I said it in the video announcing the contract a couple of days ago. But just how big an impact has Ralph made on his Saints career? Because he said himself in the 2018-19 season, a couple months after Ralph had come in, that Ralph saved his career at the club. What's changed?
A lot has changed for Ward-Prowse since Ralph came in. I think Ward-Prowse have played on the wing a few times, and it just wasn't suiting him. And Ralph played him in the middle, central, made him more aggressive. And it's just a completely new player now. You would probably see Ward-Prowse, before Ralph came in, he was quite weak and lackluster, and it was like a bench player, and no one really rated him too much. But in the middle, he's just been terrific under Ralph. He wins the ball so much, and he runs like for the whole game, which is incredible. And he's just been a terrific player for us under Ralph.
Well, this season he covered more ground than any other footballer in Europe's top five league, which is just a staggering stat. He didn't miss a single minute of Premier League football. The only time when he wasn't on the pitch for Saints this year was when he got injured in the Spurs FA Cup replay. So what's that, like 60, 70 minutes he's missed across the entire season. Just absolutely phenomenal effort from him. And for me now, I think he's probably the second or the third name of the team sheet. He's superb. But Ryan Bertrand and Jack Stevens also both look to be signing new contracts. From my opinion, I think we've been linked with centre backs. We've obviously signed a new centre back, but I just don't know how in a year's time how Jack Stevens is going to be playing for us still. I think we're going to be replacing him. Not that he deserves it, but I think just naturally we'll be trying to improve. I don't really see. No, I do see the point in giving him a new contract, but I just think that maybe he won't be playing. He'll be a contract as a squad player very soon, whereas now he's being promised regular game time still. But for Ryan Bertrand, I think he's still going to be our best left back for a long time. But for you, mate, what's your reaction to those two signing new contracts?
Looks like Bertrand signing a 3-year deal, which is interesting. I don't know whether Bertrand will be our first choice left back for the next 3 years because he obviously is getting on now. But I think he's just a good player to have him in changing room, to be honest, even if he does see out his contract in the 3rd year. But obviously, Vokins is coming through. I don't know how fast he is going to progress and how fast he's going to be integrated into the first team. But I, hopefully, it won't be too long before he starts pushing Bertrand for that first team spot at left back. And Jack Stevens, yeah, I agree with you, Dan. I don't think he'll be a regular starter for us in the next 3 years. He could be next season. I think he gives us something that we don't have at the back. But yeah, thinking long term, I don't think he will be a starter. But I think it's a good thing that Jack Stevens is signing a contract though.
Well, just to wrap everything up, with all that's happened over the last couple of weeks, are you a lot more encouraged with the new season now? Like, how are you feeling? It's only 3.5 weeks away. How confident are you? We've spoken about it before, but just for the sake of the video and the podcast, just share. Let's talk about it.
I'm I'm much more confident than I was last year. I think we really can push for a Europa League spot. Obviously, you've seen since the restart, or since the Arsenal 2-2 when we changed the four at the back, we have been unbelievable, and that's shown after coming 11th, which was unheard of in November time or so. And I think I've always said if we signed a centre back, a right back, and a centre mid, a Hojbjerg replacement, that would be a 10 out of 10 window. And if we do get the McKennie deal over the line, it does look really, really promising.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think for me, a 10 out of 10 window would be getting those three players, maybe a winger, and just selling some of the deadwood. But look, I think it's very, very exciting times ahead. We've got the fixtures coming out on Friday, so we'll obviously do a video with that. But thank you guys for watching, for listening, whatever platform you are on. Hopefully this time I actually got the audio sorted. But if you haven't yet already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. You're following us on all of our socials, and we'll see you very soon for another video.